The text came through at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my home office reviewing quarterly reports for 3 of my clients: a tech CEO, a retired professional athlete, and a small chain of boutique hotels. My phone buzzed on the desk. Dad's name appeared on the screen. "I disown you. Talk to my lawyer." No context. No explanation. Just those 7 words. I stared at the message for exactly 30 seconds. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just felt nothing. A vast, empty nothing where surprise or hurt should have been. I typed back a single word: "Okay." Then I set my phone down and went back to work. But my mind wasn't on the reports anymore. It was calculating. Planning. Because if my father had just disowned me, if he'd just severed our relationship with a single text message, then I had some decisions to make. Decisions that would change everything. My name is Daniel Chin. I'm 34 years old and I'm a wealth management advisor specializing in high-net-worth individuals. I manage portfolios totaling over $800 million for 43 clients. My personal net worth is $6.2 million, built through strategic investments, real estate holdings, and a 15-year career in finance that started the day I graduated from college. My parents don't know any of this. To them, I'm just their disappointment of a son who works with computers and lives in a decent apartment in the city. They've never asked what I do exactly. They've never visited my place. They've certainly never wondered how I can afford to live in a building with a doorman and underground parking. They've been too busy being disappointed that I'm not a doctor. That was the dream, you see. Dr. Daniel Chin. My father had it planned out before I was born. Pre-med at an Ivy League school, medical school at Johns Hopkins or Stanford, residency in neurosurgery or cardiology, a prestigious practice, a big house in the suburbs, a respectable wife, 2.5 children. Instead, I majored in economics and mathematics at a state school, went straight into finance and never looked back. I'm also gay, single by choice, and perfectly happy living in my decent apartment that costs $4,800 a month and has a view of the city skyline that still takes my breath away every morning. My father never forgave me for any of it. But here's what he also didn't know. I'd been supporting them financially for the past 7 years. It started in 2016. Dad had taken early retirement from his job as an engineer, expecting his pension and investments to carry them through. Except he'd made poor investment choices, too aggressive for someone his age, too concentrated in a few tech stocks that crashed in 2015. Their retirement fund had lost 40% of its value. Mom had called me crying. "We might lose the house, Daniel. Your father is too proud to ask for help, but I don't know what else to do. How much do you need?" I'd asked. "Just temporary. Maybe $3,000 a month until we can refinance and get the payments down." I'd set up an automatic transfer that same day. $3,000 every month directly into their checking account. No questions asked. 7 years later, that $3,000 had grown. Water heater needed replacing? I covered it. Property taxes went up? I handled it. Car needed major repairs? Done. Medical bills not covered by insurance? Paid. I was sending them approximately $4,500 every month. $54,000 a year. Over 7 years, I'd given them close to $380,000. And I'd never told anyone. Not my best friend Alex. Not my colleagues. Certainly not my younger sister Michelle, who lived across the country and called once a year on Christmas. Why did I do it? Because they were my parents. Because despite everything, despite the disappointment and the subtle rejection and the constant comparison to children of their friends who'd become doctors and lawyers, they were still the people who raised me. But after 7 years of silent support, I'd finally made a mistake. I'd shown up to their house with the wrong person. His name was James. We'd been dating for 4 months, long enough that I was starting to think it might be serious, short enough that I hadn't introduced him to my family yet. But we'd been driving back from a weekend trip upstate, and the route took us right past my parents' neighborhood. James had mentioned he needed to use a restroom, and without thinking, I'd suggested stopping at my parents' place. "Are you sure?" he'd asked. "I can wait until we find a gas station." "It's fine," I'd said. "Quick bathroom break, say hello, we're out in 10 minutes. I should have gone to the gas station. Dad had answered the door. His eyes had flicked from me to James, then back to me. "Daniel. I wasn't expecting you. Just passing through. James needs to use the restroom." This is James, by the way. James, my father. They'd shaken hands. Dad's grip was cold. Bathroom is down the hall, he'd said to James, then turned to me with a look I'd seen before. Disappointment mixed with something sharper. Disgust maybe. Mom had come out of the kitchen. Daniel. What a nice surprise. And who is this? This is James, I'd said carefully. We're dating. The temperature in the room had dropped 30 degrees. Dating, Dad had repeated flatly. Yes. Mom's smile had frozen on her face. Oh. How entice. The 10 minutes I'd planned turned into the most excruciating 25 minutes of my life. James had tried to make conversation. Mom had offered tea we didn't drink. Dad had said exactly 7 words. I see. Interesting. And we'll let you get going. As we'd walked back to the car, James had squeezed my hand. That was rough. I'm sorry. Not your fault, I'd said. They'll get over it. I'd been wrong. The text had started the next day. Mom, Daniel, we need to talk about your lifestyle choices. Dad, this is not how we raised you. Mom, what will people think? What will we tell our friends? Dad, you need to reconsider this path you're on. I tried to call them. Dad had declined every call. Mom had answered once, cried for 10 minutes about how she'd failed as a mother, then hung up. Then the emails had started. Long, rambling messages about morality and family values and expectations. Articles forwarded from questionable sources about changing your mind and making better choices. A link to a church that specialized in conversion therapy. I tried reasoning with them. I tried explaining that this was who I'd always been, that I was happy that James was a good person. A pediatric nurse, for God's sake, someone who spent his days caring for sick children. Nothing worked. The messages had gotten shorter. Angrier. And then 2 weeks after that bathroom break, Dad's text. I disown you. Talk to my lawyer. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my desk with a spreadsheet open, documenting every payment I'd made to my parents over the past 7 years. Every automatic transfer. Every one-time payment for emergencies. Every bill I'd quietly handled. The total came to $383,750. Nearly $400,000. Given freely without contracts or conditions because they were my parents and they needed help. Given by a son they just disowned via text message. At 2 a.m. I logged into my banking portal. I pulled up every automatic payment scheduled to my parents. The monthly $3,000 base support. The additional $1,500 that had become standard. The supplemental payments I'd set up for their property taxes and insurance. I canceled every single one. Then I drafted an email to their utility companies, their insurance providers, their mortgage company. I removed my credit card from all their accounts. I canceled the backup payment methods I'd set up years ago, just in case. It took 45 minutes to systematically dismantle 7 years of financial support. When I was done, I sat back and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. At 8 a.m. I called my attorney. Richard, I need you to do something for me, I said. My father says I need to talk to his lawyer. I want to be prepared. Prepared for what? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe he's trying to scare me. But I've been financially supporting my parents for 7 years and I just cut off all funding. I want documentation of every dollar I gave them, and I want to know what my legal exposure is if they try to claim I owe them something. Richard was quiet for a moment. Daniel, are you telling me you've been giving your parents roughly $50,000 a year for 7 years? And you never had them sign a promissory note or gift acknowledgement? Correct. And now your father has threatened legal action? He disowned me actually. Via text. The legal threat was implied. Jesus. Send me your banking records. I'll have my paralegal start compiling documentation. In the meantime, don't communicate with your parents except through writing, text or email only. Nothing verbal. We need a paper trail. Already ahead of you. Good. I'll also draft a letter for you to send them, outlining what you've provided and making it clear that all financial support has ceased. It'll protect you if they try to claim you're obligated to continue paying. How fast can you have it ready? End of day. Perfect. For 48 hours I heard nothing. I went to work. I met with clients. I reviewed portfolios and made recommendations and conducted my life exactly as I always had. But I kept my phone on loud, waiting. James texted me, "How are you holding up?" "Surprisingly okay," I replied. "I think I've been ready for this for a while. Do you want company tonight?" "Yes, please." He came over with Thai food and a six-pack of good beer. We ate on my couch and watched a documentary about ocean life, and he didn't push me to talk about it. He just sat next to me, solid and warm and present. "Thank you," I said during the credits. "For what?" "For being here. For not making me feel like I have to explain or defend anything." He kissed my temple. "You never have to defend who you are. Not to me. Not to anyone." I'd known I loved him before that moment. But that's when I knew I was going to tell him. On the morning of the third day, my phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello. Daniel." Her voice was panicked, breathless. "Daniel, something's wrong with the bank account. The mortgage payment bounced. The insurance company called saying our policy is going to lapse. The electric company sent a disconnect notice. I don't understand what's happening." I put her on speaker and poured myself coffee. "What do you mean you don't understand?" "All our automatic payments failed. Everything. The bank says there's not enough money, but there should be. There's always enough money. Daniel, we're going to lose the house." "No, Mom. You're not going to lose the house. You're just going to have to pay for it yourselves." Silence. "Then, what?" I canceled all the payments I was making. The automatic transfers, the backup payment methods, everything. "As of 2 days ago, I'm no longer financially supporting you." "You can't do that." "Actually, I can. It's my money. I was giving it to you voluntarily. Now I'm not." I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow. But why? What did we do?" The question was so absurd I almost laughed. "Dad disowned me, Mom. He sent me a text message saying he's done with me and I should talk to his lawyer. So I'm respecting his wishes. If I'm not his son anymore, there's no reason for me to keep paying his bills." "That's not," he was just upset. "He didn't mean it. He sent it in writing. It seems pretty clear." "Daniel, please. We need that money. We can't afford the house without it. We'll lose everything." "Then I suggest you talk to Dad about undisowning me." "This isn't funny." "I'm not laughing, Mom. I'm completely serious. For 7 years I've been sending you $4,500 every single month. That's $54,000 a year. Over $380,000 total. I did it because you're my parents and I love you and I wanted to help. But Dad made his position very clear. I'm not his son. So I'm not his bank anymore either. You're being cruel." "I'm being exactly as cruel as a disowned son should be," I said quietly. "Which is to say, I'm being neutral. I'm treating you the way I'd treat any 2 people I used to know but am no longer related to." He started crying. "Please, Daniel. Please don't do this. We're your parents." "Your Dad's wife," I corrected. "Dad disowned me, remember? That means he gets to make these decisions. If he wants my financial support back, he can call me himself and ask for it." "He won't, he's too proud." "Then I guess you'll need to figure out your finances without me." "Daniel." I hung up. My hands were shaking now, but not from fear. From something that felt dangerously close to power. Richard's letter arrived at my parents' house that afternoon via certified mail. It was 3 pages long and devastatingly thorough. Page 1 outlined every payment I'd made over 7 years, complete with dates, amounts, and purposes. It totaled $383,750. Page 2 explained that all payments had been voluntary gifts with no written agreement requiring me to continue providing support. It cited the legal principle that adult children have no obligation to financially support their parents in our state. Page 3 was the kicker. It stated that in light of my father's written termination of our father-son relationship, the text message was included as an exhibit. I was exercising my right to cease all voluntary financial support immediately. It also noted that I was generously choosing not to pursue repayment of the $383,750 I'd already provided, though I would be within my rights to do so. The letter concluded with a simple sentence. Mr. Chin hopes that his parents can achieve the financial independence he has long encouraged them to develop. Richard had called me after it was delivered. "Your mother's already contacted my office," he said. "She wants to talk. Tell her to put it in writing. She's claiming you're financially abusing them." Actually laughed. I'm financially abusing them by not giving them money? That's rich. That's what I told her in more professional terms. She hung up. Good. Daniel, I have to ask. Are you sure about this? If they lose their house. They won't lose their house. They'll figure it out. Sell the house and downsize. Cut their expenses. Maybe ask my sister for help for once. Maybe, God forbid, ask Dad's lawyer for financial advice instead of using him to threaten me. Fair enough. I'm here if you need me. My phone exploded over the next week. Mom called 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent 43 text messages ranging from pleading to accusatory to manipulative. I read them all but responded to none. Then Michelle called. What the hell did you do? She demanded. Hello to you too, Michelle. Mom called me crying. She says you've abandoned them. That you're letting them lose their house. Is that true? No. I stopped paying their mortgage, which I'd been doing for 7 years without telling you. They can pay it themselves. They can't afford it. Then they shouldn't have bought a house they couldn't afford. Or Dad shouldn't have gambled their retirement fund on risky tech stocks. Or they shouldn't have spent the last 7 years spending every dollar they made because they knew I was covering their basic expenses. This is insane. You're going to let our parents become homeless over what? A fight. Dad disowned me, Michelle. In writing. Because I introduced him to my boyfriend. She was quiet for a moment. He did what? He sent me a text message saying he disowns me and I should talk to his lawyer. Because I'm gay and he doesn't approve. So I'm respecting his decision. If I'm not his son, I'm not his ATM. That's Jesus, Daniel. I didn't know. How could you? You call once a year. He sucked in a breath. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked how I was doing? When's the last time you offered to help Mom and Dad with anything? I've been sending them $4,500 a month for 7 years, Michelle. $54,000 every year. Where were you? I'm in graduate school. I'm broke. And I was 27 years old when I started helping them. I made it work. You could have too if you'd even known there was a problem. But you didn't know because you didn't ask. So what, now you're punishing all of us because Dad's a bigot? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just done being the family ATM while being told I'm not really family. She hung up. 2 days later she called back. I talked to Dad, she said quietly. He's not backing down. He says you made your choice and he made his. Okay. Daniel, he's going to lose the house. No, Michelle. You're all going to let him lose the house because none of you are willing to step up and help. There are 3 of you and 1 of me. Figure it out. I can't afford $4,500 a month. Neither could I when I started. I made it work because I loved them. Apparently, you love them less than I did. That's not. Or maybe you love them exactly as much as they deserve to be loved by children they've rejected and ignored. This time I hung up. 3 weeks after I cut off funding, I got a call from an estate attorney named Margaret Winters. Mr. Chin, I'm representing your father in a matter regarding financial support obligations. I understand you've been providing monetary assistance to your parents and have recently ceased that support. That's correct. Your father is exploring legal options to compel you to resume payments. On what grounds? Filial responsibility laws. Several states have statutes requiring adult children to financially support indigent parents. We don't live in one of those states, I said calmly. And my parents aren't indigent. They own a home, they have retirement income, and they have assets. They're just not willing to adjust their lifestyle to match their actual means. Be that as it may. Ms. Winters, I'm going to stop you there. My father sent me a text message explicitly disowning me. I have that message saved. He terminated our parent-child relationship in writing. You can't have it both ways. Either he's my father, in which case he needs to act like it, or he's not, in which case he has no claim to my money. She was quiet for a moment. I see. I've been financially supporting my parents for 7 years without any written agreement. I've given them over $380,000. I stopped only after being disowned. If your client would like to pursue legal action, I'm prepared to countersue for repayment of the full amount, plus interest, since he's now treating it as a business relationship rather than a familial one. That's an interesting position. It's the correct position. I suggest you explain to my father that if he wants my money, he needs to be my father. If he wants to be my former father, he gets nothing. His choice. I'll relay your message." She hung up. I never heard from her again. 6 weeks after I cut off funding, Michelle called me at 11 p.m. "They sold the house," she said without preamble. "At a loss. They're moving into a one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town." "Okay. Are you happy now?" "I'm not happy or unhappy about it. It's their life. They're miserable." "Then they should have thought of that before Dad disowned me for being gay." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why did you help them for so long? If they were always like this, disappointed in you, rejecting who you are, why did you keep paying?" I thought about it. Because I kept hoping they'd change. I kept thinking that if I was good enough, helpful enough, successful enough, they'd finally see me. Really see me. And accept me. And now I know they won't. They'd rather lose their house than accept that I'm gay. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For not being there. For not helping. For not even knowing you were carrying all of this alone." It was the first time she'd ever apologized to me for anything. "Thank you," I said. "Do you think you'll ever forgive them?" "I already have. Forgiveness doesn't mean I have to keep setting myself on fire to keep them warm." 3 months after I cut off funding, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. "Daniel, it's your father." I almost hung up. My finger was literally hovering over the end button. "I'm listening," I said instead. "I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere? Just you and me." "Why?" "Because I owe you an apology. A real one. In person. You could apologize right now. Please. I need to do this face to face." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop halfway between my apartment and his new place. He looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. He ordered coffee. I ordered nothing. "Thank you for coming," he said. I nodded. "I've been thinking a lot these past few months. About what I said. About what I did." He paused. "About what I lost. The house." "No. You." I wasn't expecting that. I kept my face neutral. "When we had to sell the house and move into that apartment, your mother and I had to go through everything. Pack up 30 years of our lives. And I found all these photos of you. Growing up. Graduating. Your first job. And I realized I wasn't in any of the recent ones. Because I stopped showing up for you years ago." "Yes," I said simply. "You did. Michelle told me what you did. How much you were paying. How long you'd been doing it." I didn't believe her at first. Why not? Because I didn't want to believe that I could be so blind. That you could be so generous and I could be so ungrateful. He pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. "What's this?" I asked. "For $20,000. It's not nearly what we owe you, but it's all we could manage after selling the house and settling debts. I want you to have it." I pushed it back. "I don't want your money, Dad." "Daniel. I never wanted your money. I wanted you to see me. To accept me. To love me for who I am, not who you wished I was." His eyes filled with tears. "I do see you. Finally see you. And I'm so sorry." "For which part? For disowning me? For being a bigot? For taking my money for 7 years and never once thanking me?" "All of it. Every bit of it. I was wrong. About everything." I sat back and looked at him. Really looked at him. "I'm gay, Dad. That's not going to change. James and I are still together. If anything, we're more serious now than we were 3 months ago." "I know. And if you can't accept that, if you're going to reject me every time I make a choice you don't approve of, then there's no point in rebuilding this relationship." "I'm not rejecting you. Not anymore. I'm asking for a chance to do better. Why should I believe you?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because I've spent 3 months living in a one-bedroom apartment with your mother, trying to survive on our actual income, and I've had a lot of time to think about what matters. And what matters is you. Not the house. Not what the neighbors think. Not some imaginary version of you I created in my head 30 years ago. My son. The real you." I felt something crack open in my chest. Something that had been frozen for a very long time. "I can't just forget what happened," I said. "I can't pretend you didn't disown me." I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to let me try to make it right. How? However you need me to. Therapy. Family counseling. Meeting James properly. Learning about your life instead of trying to control it. Whatever it takes. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the text message. The one that said, I disown you. Talk to my lawyer. Delete this, I said, showing him the screen. Send me a new message. One that says something different. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. A moment later my phone buzzed. You are my son. I love you. I'm sorry. Please give me a chance to prove it. I looked at the message for a long time. One chance, I said finally. That's all you get. If you reject me again, I'm done. Forever. I understand. And I'm not resuming financial support. You need to live within your means. I know. We're figuring it out. Good. He reached across the table, hesitant. I let him take my hand. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up on me. I'm not sure I haven't, I said honestly. But I'm willing to find out. A year after that coffee shop conversation, James and I hosted Thanksgiving at our new place. A 3-bedroom condo we'd bought together 6 months earlier. Mom and Dad came. So did Michelle and her new boyfriend. And my parents' new friends from their apartment complex. An elderly couple named Ruth and Howard who'd become surrogate grandparents to us all. Dad and James spent an hour in the kitchen talking about James's work at the children's hospital. Mom showed me photos of the volunteer work she'd started doing at a literacy center. Michelle pulled me aside to tell me she'd started therapy to work through our family dynamics. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments. Still old patterns trying to resurface. But when Dad said grace before dinner, he included a line he'd never said before. And thank you for my son Daniel, who taught me what real generosity looks like. Even when I didn't deserve it. I looked at James, who squeezed my hand under the table. Later that night, after everyone had left and we were cleaning up, he asked, Are you happy you gave them another chance? I thought about it. I'm happy I gave Dad a chance to become the father he should have been all along. Whether he succeeds or not, at least I know I tried. That's very mature of you. I learned it from cutting them off, actually. I learned that I don't owe anyone access to my life or my resources just because we share DNA. I learned that boundaries aren't cruel, they're necessary. And I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling someone's worst behavior. And the $380,000? Gone forever. I'll never see that money again, and I'm okay with that. Really. Really. Because it bought me something more valuable than money. What's that? Freedom. The freedom to choose who I have in my life based on how they treat me, not on obligation. The freedom to know my own worth. And the freedom to walk away when someone shows me they don't value what I bring to the table. James kissed me. I'm really glad you didn't walk away from me. I almost did, you know. Right after everything happened. I almost broke up with you to avoid dragging you through all the family drama. What stopped you? You told me I never have to defend who I am. And I realized you were right. With you, I never have to be anyone but myself. That's worth fighting for. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Thank you for today. It meant everything to your mother and me. Also, James's pumpkin pie was better than mine. Don't tell him I admitted that. I smiled and showed James the message. Should I gloat? He asked. Absolutely. You earned it. He laughed and we went back to cleaning up, and everything was exactly as it should be. Not perfect. Not easy. But honest. And real. And built on a foundation I'd created by knowing when to give, when to stop giving, and when to demand better. That's the thing about cutting people off financially. It shows you who they really are when the money disappears. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it shows them who they really are too. Dad had been willing to lose a house to keep his pride. But he hadn't been willing to lose me. That made all the difference.